Hi everyone, it's Amy Campbell with the Iowa Developmental Disabilities Council, and I am here on a Thursday afternoon as the session closes down for the week after week 2. As you can see, it's a very snowy day up here. A lot of legislators took off early to go home this week because of the snow, so it was a pretty quiet day up there today, but still a lot are happening, and we will get right to that. I'm here with my friend Carlin Crow to give you kind of our quick update for this week.
Hi everyone, this is Carlin Crow with the Iowa DD Council, and I think Amy put us outside this week, so we would make our comments short and to the point because it's kind of cold out here. So let's get to it. This week at the Capitol, there was a very focused intent to talk about education, and specifically the governor's plan to provide funding for students to attend non-public schools out of the state education budget. And this plan is has been called the Students First Plan. It's called the voucher bill. It's called the ESA program. There's a lot of different names for it, but basically it focuses on tuition for students to attend private school. And our concern with this plan regards special education and the effect on students with disabilities and their abilities to get the programs and the services that they need, whether they are attending a public or non-public school. This week, the House held a public hearing where members of the public were able to come address their concerns to the House committee who was deciding the fate of this bill. And there were a number of people who spoke both for and against it. And one of them was Catherine Johnson, who is the director of Disability Rights Iowa. And what Catherine explained, she gave a very impassioned and informative testimony about the rights of students with disabilities and what is required under the law for students with disabilities to obtain a free and appropriate public education. And what she talked about in regards to private school is that there are going to be fewer protections against discrimination and also fewer choices for conflict resolution for students with disabilities who attend non-public schools. The other concern is with the effect on public schools and funding. And we have a lot of questions that revolve around this act and funding for schools, because we all know that there's not enough right now as it pertains to special education. And so we're concerned that that could decrease also under this plan. And there's not a lot of answers for it. So we're still looking for those answers and hope to be able to provide you with more of that. But this bill has moved quickly through the legislature. It's already passed out of the House and Senate, and it's scheduled for debate in the House on Monday. So if you have concerns or want to share your opinions with your legislators, we encourage you to call them this weekend. Call, email, write, and tell them what you think. Tell them how you think this would affect you, especially if you're a student. Legislators love hearing from young Iowans, and they want the best for you. So tell them how this might affect you or your friends who maybe get special services in schools. And whatever that opinion may be, make your voice heard. Don't be afraid about talking about the details of this bill. There are a lot of details in some respects, and in some there's not. It's a funding bill at this point, and a funding bill for which we still don't have a lot of answers of where all the funding is coming from and where it's going to go. So those would be some great questions for you to ask your legislators also. So we encourage you to make those calls this weekend or this week. We're not sure when it's going to come up in the Senate, but it will probably be this week. And make your voice heard. And let us know if you have questions or need some suggestions about how to do that. In our other news this week, we want to give a shout out to all of the people who did express their opinions at the public hearing, parents, and students. And maybe you've already called your legislator, and if you have about this, then that's awesome. So a shout out to you too. And we also want to give a special shout out, and this is not in regards to this particular bill, but to Robert Fisher from Adel. Many of you have probably heard about Robert, and he's listed in our legislative agenda this year, and about his struggle in Adel to get the post office accessible to him. Well, this past weekend, there was a news story on one of our local TV channels here in central Iowa that talked about Robert's journey into getting his post office more accessible. And the story was about how the post office has listened and is going to install an electronic mechanism on their doors so that it will open and be more accessible. We will post a link to this and also to the testimony that I talked about earlier with this video so that you can see the story yourself. And you'll probably see that Robert is a little bit skeptical as to when this might happen or whether it happened at all. But we just want to give him a shout out because he's been working on this for a year and maybe longer. And look, his advocacy efforts paid off. So great job to you, Robert. And I think we need to bring you to the Capitol here sooner rather than later. Okay, thanks everyone. We'll talk to you soon. Back to Amy.
Hopefully we'll see you next week for our 11 o'clock Friday Capitol chat. We will have that information here on the bottom of the screen, and that's a great opportunity for advocates to ask more questions of both Carlin and I about what's going on. So see you next week.